The golden age of the amateur landlord isn't just ending, it's being executed. Right now, there is a quiet panic sweeping through the UK property market. You won't see it on the front page of the BBC, and your estate agent definitely won't tell you about it. But look closely at the data, and the signal is terrifyingly clear. Landlords are exiting the market at the fastest rate we have seen in 15 years. They are selling up, they are getting out, they are terrified. And you know what? They should be. Because the rules have just changed. The government has loaded the gun, and the regulatory chamber is full. From the abolition of Section 21 to the looming energy performance crackdowns and the tax environment that feels less like a levy and more like a penalty, the traditional buy-to-let model is bleeding out. But here is the part that nobody is talking about. While the amateur landlords are running for the exits, the institutional giants, the pension funds, the banks, the ultra-wealthy are quietly moving in. They aren't selling, they're buying. Why?
Because they know something the average investor doesn't. They know that in every crisis there is a transfer of wealth from the reactive to the strategic. The narrative you are being fed is incomplete. I'm not just going to explain why UK landlords are panicking. I'm going to show you why this is the single greatest opportunity for the educated investor in a decade, if, and only if, you know how to navigate the minefield that's coming. We are going to tear apart the Renters' Reform Bill. We are going to look at the real data on UK mortgage rates, and I'm going to give you the exact playbook to survive the purge. Most people will lose money in UK real estate this year. By the end of this, you'll know how to make sure you aren't one of them. To understand the panic, we have to understand the trap. For 20 years, being a UK landlord was easy. It was the ultimate cheat code to wealth. Money was cheap. You could borrow at 2%, yield 5%, and watch capital appreciation do the heavy lifting. You didn't need to be smart, you just needed to be solvent. That era is dead. We are currently seeing a collision of three massive forces. The first is financial. The era of cheap money is over. We have seen base rates hike to levels a generation of investors have never experienced. This has completely eroded the profit margins of anyone who didn't crunch their numbers properly. But the second force is the one causing the real sleepless nights. It's political. The narrative has shifted. The UK housing crisis has reached a boiling point, and the government, regardless of which party is in power, has decided that the easiest scapegoat is the private landlord. We are seeing a regulatory tightening that is unprecedented. And this brings us to the third force, psychology. When you combine eroding profits with a hostile government, you get fear. And fear makes people make mistakes. We are seeing a mass offloading of stock. But here is the first secret I want to share with you, and it's crucial for your UK property investment strategy going forward. When supply contracts, what happens to price? The mainstream media is screaming about a UK housing crash. They want you to click on the headlines. But the fundamentals of economics don't care about headlines. We have a growing population and a shrinking rental sector. The landlords who are panicking and selling are actually creating the shortage that will drive rents into the stratosphere for the landlords who stay. This is the paradox. The harder they make it to be a landlord, the more profitable it becomes for the ones who survive. But survival requires a new set of armor. Let's address the elephant in the room, the Renters' Rights Bill, specifically the abolition of Section 21. For decades, Section 21 was the landlord's safety net. It allowed you to regain possession of your property without having to prove a specific fault. It was the no-fault eviction clause. And it is going away. If you read the forums, you'd think this is the end of the world. Landlords are screaming that they'll never get their properties back, that tenants will squat forever, that the courts will be gridlocked. Is there truth to that? Yes, but let's look closer.
The removal of Section 21 doesn't mean you can't evict a tenant. It means you need a reason. Section 8 is being strengthened. If a tenant doesn't pay rent, if they are antisocial, if you want to sell the property, or if you want to move family in, you can still get possession. However, and this is the insider reality check you need to hear, the court system in the UK is currently broken. It is slow, it is underfunded. Moving from a paper-based Section 21 to a hearing-based Section 8 is going to cause delays. So, why am I not panicking? Because this regulation changes the game from asset accumulation to tenant selection. The amateur landlord takes the first person with a deposit. The professional investor, the elite operator, understands that tenant due diligence is now the most important part of the business model. If you never have a bad tenant, you never need to evict. This new rule is going to wipe out the slumlords. It's going to wipe out the lazy investors who don't reference check. It puts a premium on management. If you are a good landlord providing a high-quality product, the abolition of Section 21 is actually a barrier to entry for your competition. It makes the market harder to enter, which protects those of us already inside. But Section 21 is just the tip of the iceberg. There is something much more dangerous lurking in the fine print of the government's green agenda. You've heard the whispers about EPCs, Energy Performance Certificates. The goalposts are moving. The government has signaled an intent to raise the minimum energy efficiency standard for rental properties to a C rating. Now pause. Look at the UK housing stock. It is some of the oldest in Europe. Millions of Victorian and Edwardian terraces are currently sitting at a D or an E rating. To get a solid brick Victorian terrace to a C rating isn't just a case of changing light bulbs. You're looking at internal wall insulation, underfloor insulation, heat pumps. We are talking about tens of thousands of pounds in capex. This is why landlords are panicking. They are looking at their portfolios, realizing they have 10 properties that all need £15,000 of work and they don't have the cash. So they sell. They dump these unmortgageable assets onto the market. This is where the "is now a good time to buy property" in the UK question gets interesting. If you are a novice, buying an E-rated property right now is financial suicide. But if you are a strategic investor, this is the discount window. We are seeing a two-tier market emerge. Tier 1, energy-efficient, modern stock that commands a premium and attracts the best tenants. Tier 2, legacy stock that is becoming a liability. The panic sellers are dumping Tier 2. The smart money is buying Tier 2 at a massive discount, factoring in the refurbishment costs and forcing the appreciation through development. This isn't passive income anymore. This is active development. If you are waiting for passive income in 2024 and 2025, you are in the wrong asset class. UK real estate investing has morphed into a business, and businesses require work. We need to talk about Section 24. I know, it's old news. It was introduced years ago. But the impact of Section 24 is only being fully felt now that interest rates have risen. For the uninitiated, Section 24 removed the ability for individual landlords to deduct mortgage interest from their taxable income.
When interest rates were 2%, this was annoying. When mortgage rates are 5% or 6%, this is lethal. I've seen real portfolios that look healthy on the outside, that are actually losing money every single month because the tax bill is higher than the actual profit. You can literally be taxed on a loss. This is the math that is causing the exodus. The accidental landlords, the ones who owned one or two properties in their personal names, are being suffocated. So, what is the solution? Is the game over? No. The game has just moved. Almost every serious acquisition happening in the UK property market right now is happening through a limited company structure. Special purpose vehicles. If you buy in a company, Section 24 doesn't apply. You pay corporation tax on your profits, not income tax on your turnover. If you are listening to this and you're buying properties in your personal name in 2024, stop. You are fighting a war with antiquated weapons. The government has told you exactly how they want you to invest. They want professional, corporate landlords. If you don't incorporate, you are volunteering to be a victim. But hold on. Because even with a limited company, you are facing a market where yields are tight. And this leads us to the biggest lie you're being told about the UK housing forecast. Turn on the TV and you'll hear that house prices are about to fall off a cliff. UK housing crash is a high-volume search term for a reason. People are obsessed with the crash. But let's look at the underlying data that the doomsayers ignore. House prices are determined by supply and demand. That's it. It's not magic. The UK has a chronic structural shortage of housing. We are building nowhere near the target of 300,000 homes a year. Immigration is high. The population is growing. Household formation is increasing. Meanwhile, landlords are selling.
So we have rising demand and falling supply. In what economic reality does that lead to a sustained crash? We might see a correction. We might see nominal prices dip slightly or stagnate as affordability gets stretched by high mortgage rates. But a crash? A 20% or 30% wipeout? It is statistically unlikely in the core areas. However, and this is a massive however, the market is fragmented. The London market behaves differently to the northwest. The southeast is not the same as the northeast. The panic is not evenly distributed. In areas where yields were already razor-thin, like prime London, the interest rate hikes have made investing impossible. Prices there are softening. But look at the north. Look at Manchester, Liverpool, Leeds. Areas where you can still find yields of 7%, 8%, maybe 9%. In these areas, the numbers still work, even with higher rates. The national housing market is a myth. It doesn't exist. There are thousands of micro-markets. The landlords who are panicking are the ones who bought the wrong stock in the wrong area at the wrong time. The investors who are thriving are the ones who are agnostic about location. They follow the yield. They follow the regeneration infrastructure. They aren't buying a house because it's down the road. They are buying it because the data says it works. I promised you I'd tell you where the smart money is going. While the amateurs are selling their single-let terraced houses, the pros are pivoting. They are moving away from the vanilla buy-to-let and moving into high-yield strategies, HMOs, serviced accommodation, social housing leases. Why? Because when mortgage rates double, you can't just rely on a single family paying £900 a month. You need to sweat the asset. You need that same building to generate £2,500 a month. This requires skill, it requires licensing, it requires complying with even more regulations, and that is exactly why it's profitable. The panic we are seeing is actually a filtration process. The market is filtering out the passive investors. It is demanding that you become a professional. Think about it. If you own a shop, you have to work at it. If you own a tech company, you have to innovate. Why did we ever think providing housing, a fundamental human need, should be passive? The new rules are professionalizing the industry. And for those of us who treat this as a profession, the competition is melting away. Let's take a step back from the numbers and talk about your brain. Warren Buffett famously said, "Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful." It's a cliché, but have you ever tried to actually do it? It is physically painful to buy when everyone else is selling. It goes against our evolutionary programming. When the herd runs, we want to run with them. Right now, the herd is screaming, "Get out of UK property." But let's look at who the herd is. The herd is the guy at the pub who bought one flat in 2005 and hasn't looked at his finances since. The herd is the newspaper columnist who needs to sell ads. Who isn't in the herd? Blackstone, Lloyds Banking Group, John Lewis. These institutions are building massive portfolios of rental homes. They are entering the build-to-rent sector aggressively. Do you think they are stupid? Do you think they haven't seen the regulations? They know that the UK population is projected to hit 70 million. They know we have a planning system that makes it incredibly difficult to build. They know that owning residential real estate in the UK is one of the best hedges against inflation in history. They are banking on the fact that the small landlords will panic and leave, allowing them to consolidate the market and raise rents. Every time a small landlord sells a rental property to a homeowner, that's one less rental home on the market. Supply drops. Rents rise. The panic is creating the very conditions that will make the survivors rich. So, you want to stay in the game? You want to know how to navigate this? Here is the playbook for the next 24 months. Rule number 1, stress test everything. Don't run your numbers at today's rates. Run them at 6%. Run them at 7%. If the deal doesn't wash its face at higher rates, walk away. Cash flow is oxygen. Capital appreciation is just vanity until you sell. In this market, you need oxygen. Rule number 2, go corporate. If you are building a portfolio, get tax advice immediately. The limited company structure is now the standard. It gives you control over how you withdraw profits and protects you from the Section 24 trap. Rule number 3, add value. You can no longer rely on the market rising to make you money. You have to force the appreciation. This means buying refurb projects, adding bedrooms, extending, improving the EPC rating. You make your money when you buy, but you realize it when you improve. Rule number 4, educate yourself on the bill. Don't fear the Renters' Reform Bill, master it. Understand the new grounds for possession. Ensure your paperwork is flawless. If your compliance is 100%, the new laws can't hurt you. Rule number 5, think long-term. Real estate is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It is a get-rich-slow scheme. If you are worried about what house prices will do in the next 6 months, you shouldn't be investing. We are looking at the next 10 to 20 years. Let me paint you a picture of 2 investors in 2025. Investor A is panicking. He has 3 properties in his personal name. He's stuck on variable rates. His tenants are calling him about drafts. He's scared of the new laws. He sells everything at a discount just to get out. He puts his money in the bank, where inflation slowly eats it alive. He feels relief for a month, then regret for a decade. Investor B is calm. She has incorporated. She bought Investor A's properties at a discount. She used the money she saved on the purchase price to upgrade the insulation and the heating. She has happy tenants paying market rent. She has fixed her debt for 5 years. She knows that in 10 years that property will have doubled in value and the mortgage debt will have been eroded by inflation. Investor A reacted to the noise. Investor B analyzed the signal. Which one do you want to be? The headlines aren't lying. Landlords are panicking. But panic is an emotion, not a strategy. The UK property market is changing forever. The days of easy money are gone. The days of the amateur are numbered. But the fundamental need for housing, that isn't going anywhere. We are living through a moment of history where the rules are being rewritten. For the unprepared, this is a crisis. For the prepared, it is the greatest opportunity of our lifetimes. Don't let the fear paralyze you. Let it educate you.
The market rewards those who solve problems. And right now, the UK housing market has a lot of problems to solve. If you can provide safe, energy-efficient, well-managed homes in a country that is desperate for them, you will win. The question isn't, is property dead? The question is, are you professional enough to keep it alive?